Hey guys, today I'm going to show you how to make my overnight cinnamon buns. I love this idea because cinnamon buns, let's face it, can be a lot of work. You typically have to let them rise for an hour, then you're going to punch down the dough, fill them, cut them, and let that rise for another half hour. Then they have to bake for about 45 minutes, and by the time you're done, 3 hours has gone by. Who wants to go through all that on a Sunday morning? Not me. So I'm going to show you a technique that allows for your dough to rise while you are sleeping, and then all you have to do is wake up the next morning, fill, cut, and bake. Let me show you how to put it together. So the first thing we're going to do is create our dough. So in a large bowl, you're going to add 3½ cups of just plain all-purpose flour, 1 packet of dry active yeast, 2 teaspoons of sugar, a teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of ground cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of grated orange zest, which I think is also a really nice flavor to add with the cinnamon, especially this time of year, and 1/2 cup of raisins. Now, I know for my raisin haters, you're all cringing, wondering why we're putting raisins in the dough, so you can definitely leave it out if you want to. I like to add the raisins to the dough and then reserve the nuts for the filling, but really it's up to you. So you're just gonna whisk up these dry ingredients until everything is combined. Then you're also gonna add 1 1/4 cup of warm water. And the important thing here is to make sure that that water is anywhere between 110 degrees Fahrenheit up to 125 degrees Fahrenheit. You don't want it to be any lower because if it is, it's not going to activate the yeast. And if it's any higher, it can actually kill the yeast. So you wanna make sure you're within that range. And then you're also gonna add 3 tablespoons of melted butter. Then with a spatula, you can go ahead and just combine all of these ingredients until you start to get a nice dough forming. And it'll be a little bit sticky and some of the flour will still stick to the bowl. That's okay. Just keep kind of pushing down that flour and stirring the dough until everything's incorporated. Then you can turn it out onto a floured surface and knead it about 20 turns or so. You just kind of want to work in that flour and just form it into a ball. Put it in a cleaned out bowl that's been greased with some butter. And then you want to cover this with some plastic wrap. Excuse the polka dots. I bought this plastic wrap. I didn't know it was decorated, but hey, it adds a nice fun party flair to the occasion. Okay, then there's 2 other things that you want to prepare the night before. You want to prepare the filling. So in a small bowl, you're going to add 3 tablespoons of brown sugar, 3 tablespoons of white sugar, a teaspoon of ground cinnamon, and a teaspoon of ground orange zest. You can whisk that all up with a fork until everything is combined, and then you're also gonna add 1/2 cup of chopped pecans and give that a toss. And then another thing you wanna do is take out of your fridge 4 tablespoons of butter, because you wanna make sure when you wake up in the morning that butter is nice and soft and at room temperature. And then you have all your components ready to go, and your morning will be stress-free. And then when you wake up, you will see your beautiful dough has been slowly rising all night long and is ready to be rolled out. So you can turn it out onto a floured surface, and then you want to roll it out into a large rectangle. So I think the size that works best is 18 inches by 14 inches. And if you're on the metric system, I'll put the conversion in the description. I can't really do it off the top of my head, but it's in there. Then you're gonna take your softened butter and you're going to smear it all over the inside of the dough. And you wanna make sure you really go out to those edges, because remember, this represents someone's inside of a cinnamon bun. So if you skimp on the edges, it's not gonna get that sugary, syrupy inside, which makes these so good. So no skimping. And then you can go ahead and sprinkle the filling all on top of the butter. And then working on the long side, just gently rolling it all the way to the end. And then position your log so that the seam side is down. And then if you took out a measuring tape, you would see you'd have about an 18-inch log, which is perfect. And what we want to do is cut every 2 inches. And once you do that, hold on to those little pieces at the end. Don't worry, I have a spot for those. Then I'm just going to lightly grease a cast iron skillet. Now, if you don't have a cast iron skillet, that's okay. You could use a pie dish or just any kind of baking casserole would do the trick. Then, working with your largest cinnamon buns first, you're going to place them in the skillet just all around the perimeter. And then taking the little ones that you have left, you're gonna tuck those into the center. Then the final step, as if we haven't put enough butter in these already, but this does help create a really nice syrupy finish once they're baked, is just to brush the tops with a little bit of melted butter. You don't have to go overboard, but just a little bit. And then we're gonna place in a 350-degree oven for about 40 to 45 minutes, just until they're nice and golden brown and puffed up and bubbly. And meanwhile, we can create our cream cheese glaze. So in a small bowl, you're gonna add a 1/4 cup of cream cheese, 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar, and then go ahead and mix those together so that it's nice and combined and smooth. And then you're also gonna add a 1/2 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 1 tablespoon of milk. Now I like to add the milk because I like more of a runny glaze, but if you're more of a thick frosting person, which I totally get, lots of cinnamon buns are made that way too, just don't add the milk and you'll have a thicker frosting. Then you want to spoon the glaze over the cinnamon buns while they're still warm, because this will allow it to kind of melt a little bit and seep into all the nooks and crannies, and it looks really beautiful too. And then you can take any of the glaze that you have left over and place it in a little serving bowl. I do like to serve this on the side, so if somebody wants more glaze, it's right there and they can help themselves. And you'll see when you take these cinnamon buns out of the skillet how delicious they are. You've got that warm cinnamon filling mixed with a little hint of orange zest and of course that decadent cream cheese glaze. Could there be anything better on a Sunday morning? I hope you guys give these a try and let me know what you think. Be sure to subscribe for more quick and easy recipes, and I'll see you back here next week with another one. Until then, bye.